What's the most genius 40 chess strategic move you've seen someone execute at work or in life? Story 1. The 46-year-old alcoholic sociopath ex-husband. It's a long story. I'll try to summarize. In court during our divorce, he argued that he's gay. He's always been gay, that everyone knew he was gay, including me. That I forced him to marry me after getting pregnant. With some gay stuff? I don't know, I'm a woman. Because I was desperate to get married. The judge bought that. Probably it was more the fact that his brother's also a judge, but whatever. Custody battle later, I pay him $400 a month in child support, which I'm proud to do because I take care of my child, even though we share joint custody and she's with me 75% of the time. Whatever. It gives him a buffer to actually feed her after he buys beers and cigs and grass. He gets a DUI, causes a media ruckus, gets fired, then gets fired 6 more times in 2 years, once by his own brother, and evicted twice, once by the same brother. My daughter lives with me full-time because he can't be home at night, waits tables. For 2 years, I still pay him child support because he won't be reasonable and I don't have the money for an attorney. Moves into his grandfather's house while his grandfather's in assisted living, gets part-time internship from a financial planner or family friend, makes $250 a week for 20 hours a week and claims to work full-time. I can't go back to court because his income is too small. Grandfather passes away, ex remains in the 3-bedroom house, angry he did not inherit, claims family stole it from him. Asked to amend child support, he decides to assert his right to more time with his daughter, even though I had to beg him to spend time with her for 2 years. Family members who jointly own the house ask him for $300 a month in rent. He refuses. Since he lived there rent-free for a year, he is now a legal tenant. They have to go through formal eviction proceedings. Takes them another year of wrangling before they finally give up on getting him to pay what he owes and they decide to sell the house. When they tell him they're going to evict him, he tries to get back together with me. When that fails because I know his character, he tries to move in with me, arguing it's better for our daughter if we do. I refuse. He threatens to sue me. I laugh. A month before they officially put the house up for sale, he starts dating a woman who has only been divorced for 2 months. 2 weeks after he starts dating her, his brother serves him with eviction papers. 3 weeks after he starts dating her, they're engaged. 2 weeks after that, they're married. She's his soulmate, the love of his life. The daughter is, understandably, furious and upset. The new wife is his 48-year-old divorce attorney, who argued in court that he's gay, has always been gay, and everyone knows he's gay, and that I chose to marry him because I was desperate to get married. They've been married for 2 weeks. They're talking about buying a house and having another baby, soon because of their ages. Here's the 4D chess. She can't say she didn't know he was gay when they married. She did not know about the eviction notice. He claimed he owned the house. She did not know he was only employed part-time. He claims he works full-time. When they inevitably divorce, he can claim again that the marriage was a fraud the whole time, that she was newly divorced and desperate to get remarried. He'll get everything, plus alimony and child support, because she was the one who made the argument in court in the first place. Story 2. I've been around a lot of manipulation and politicking in various workplaces. I can't stand it, so I don't delve into it. So suffice it to say, probably the most genius stuff was happening around me and I failed to notice it. However, something I was particularly proud of was when compelling reports, spreadsheets, ad copy, etc., I always type my name in the lower right-hand corner but set the text color to white. No one sees it, it doesn't print, but when someone, manager, sends off your files as his own work to the higher-ups, along goes your signature. It came up in a discussion once where they were debating his data with my own. He had apparently sent alternative ideas in an attempt to discredit my contributions and belittle my capabilities. In a one-on-one meeting, I had them highlight the bottom corner of all the documents he had sent under his name. They all had my name in the corner. I was working for them 2 months later. Jeez, I need this guy to manage my entire life. Story 3. A new guy in a fancy suit shows up in the office, and the company president says, "He's a consultant working for me. Give him whatever he needs." Guy works with us for months, going out to lunch with us all the time. We're all getting on great. Then one day we're in the company meeting when the president invites him up to the front of the room because he's my new boss, the VP of something or other. This guy steps out from the middle of our group like it's the big reveal on a TV show. It was undercover for the past couple of months. He asked the president not to announce his title during that time so he could investigate our department from the inside without us knowing. While undercover, he worked in a cubicle in the accounting department. Then after the reveal, he moved into the executive suite.
What was the worst time you walked in?
Rufus Rugs, open up! Sorry for barging in like that, but I just had to share the sponsor of today's video. Me and the boys from Rufus Rugs. Now you might be saying to yourself,
excuse me, what the actual are you doing in my house?
But I can assure you're gonna like this. We've been hard at work creating the best quality and premium hand-tufted rugs money can buy. Now imagine this. You, chilling on your bed, watching a Rufus Stories video, and staring at a rug that's not just a rug. Nope, it's a masterpiece. It's the kind of rug that makes your friends wish they were you. But they're not. And the best part is that these aren't your average cheap quality rugs. Nope, each one is handcrafted by me and the boys. No shortcuts, no robot assembly lines, and no dropshipping BS. Just pure rug grind. Whether you love anime, sports, cars, or anything else you can think of, we can turn it into a rug. So click the first link in the description and have your custom idea come to life.
Story 4. I had a friend who essentially engineered his marriage to a very wealthy girl. Her parents are worth tens of millions. He's an extremely intelligent person, and in my personal opinion, a total sociopath. A lot of people don't see it, especially at first, but he's extremely manipulative and is always roundaboutly getting people to do things for him. Anyway, he was a struggling artist, and he knows that this girl is loaded, so he just targeted her and eventually married her. I knew him pretty well at the time, and it was clear that he really didn't give much of a crap about her, then convinced her to move to Manhattan, away from her family, so that he could pursue his art career there. They moved into a huge apartment in the 20th floor of a high-rise with an amazing balcony view. I always thought I was extra screwed up because his wife is very overweight, and I think he used that as leverage in getting what he wanted. I don't know if it exactly fits the question, but it was kind of genius, if totally evil. Sounds oddly like a Law and Order episode to me. Story 5. This is a repost regarding a high school senior prank. We spread the word that we were all going to skip the last half of the day by leaving out the doors at the disused extreme ends of the school that they usually had difficulty monitoring. One of the NHS officers had a brother who was a fireman whose chief was a bit of a safety and regulation stickler. Sure enough, we get to school that day and the doors at the extreme ends of the building are chained shut. The NHS guy calls his brother at lunch. This was prior to cell phones, so you had to wait to use a payphone, and reports a fire hazard. Locked fire exit doors. Result, the fire chief himself shows up and orders the high school evacuated while he does a top-to-bottom inspection of the whole building. Adding insult to injury, a huge bunch of seniors took off during the evacuation. Story 6. My grandfather pulled this move in the 1960s. Not sure if it's possible or even legal anymore, but it was back when business owners had personal relationships with their bankers. Gramps had commercial properties where he rented out office space to businesses. One of his tenants was failing and about to close shop and owed him a bunch of rent to the tune of thousands of dollars. They cut him a check for the rent owed but asked him to wait a week to deposit or cash it. Gramps knew the company wouldn't be around in a week, and he'd never see his money if he waited. He took the check to the bank, they both used the same bank, and tried to cash it. Sure enough, they didn't have enough to cover the check, and the teller told him she couldn't cash it because of insufficient funds. Gramps asked how much they were short, and the teller told him about $200. So Gramps took $200 out of his wallet, had her deposit into their account, and then cashed his check for the thousands they owed him. The next day, the owners called him furious and in disbelief that he got his check cashed, and cleaned him out at the same time. Instead of lasting another week, they were out of business that day. But Gramps got his money. Story 7. I used to work as a subteacher and was having a class of 4th graders. Crafty, manipulative, little brats, let me tell you. One kid absolutely had to sit in the front of the classroom. The reason for this is that he essentially controlled the other kids by giving them looks. If he was in the front, you at least had to tell because he turned around for a second or two, gave a look, and some kid chucked his maths books across the classroom. Also, after having a few classes with these kids, one kid stayed in the classroom during the break and I asked her what was wrong. Apparently, 2 boys in the class were mean to her and calling her names, so I told her I'd tell their original teacher and or the principal. I was only a sub after all and had no place disciplining kids. As I talked to one of the teachers about it, I found out that the problem isn't the boys, it's 2 other girls in the class. See, these 2 girls would tell the boys to go bully this girl and be mean to her. Not because they didn't like the girl, but because they wanted the boys to get told off and disciplined for whatever reason. The bullied girl was just a tool in their eyes. If I ever need a general to confuse and misdirect my enemies in conflict, I'd recruit a 9-year-old girl. Story 8. I was chosen as the representative of my senior class in a Scrabble tournament. I was against this junior girl, was the best player in the whole school. I'm not exactly a pathetic player, but this girl was miles ahead in terms of Scrabble skills. It was a best out of 3 type of game, and I've already won the first round simply due to sheer luck. Halfway through the second game, however, I figured that I won't be able to win the round as my score isn't even half of hers. So in order to invalidate the round, I purposely placed a wrong word on the board. I was graduating salutatorian of the whole senior class, so she didn't really think I'll get a word wrong, and let the whole game finish. Obviously, she won by a large margin. Lo and behold, one of the teachers came to check the game's progress, and he noted the non-existent word. As per the rules of the game, and the girl's insistence that you can't accept the win given the situation, we redid the whole second round. The next second round ended in a tie, and by technicality, I actually won the whole tournament. This was probably the first strategic, albeit very manipulative, thing I've done in my life. What rules were these guys using? I don't think competitive Scrabble can even end in a tie. If you think you can beat these guys in competitive Scrabble, leave a like in this video and subscribe to the channel. Story 9. The Counter-Strike scene, an American player called FNS made some moves that were likely not intended to cause the result that he got, but in hindsight it appears like he was a strategic mastermind. FNS was on a low-level team called Counter-Logic Gaming, never competed for top spots and were content to sit around and scoop up mediocre placements in tournaments while raking in sponsor money. The Brazilian scene was either the best or the second best in the entire game, but it was debatable. One of the players in the second best Brazilian team was KNG. FNS tweeted that his own team lost to KNG's team despite KNG's team being hungover from partying too hard. KNG didn't like that. KNG threatened to end FNS and reportedly roamed the hotel where they both were staying looking for him. This made KNG's team owner nervous, and as a result, he benched KNG. Kenji had 2 friends on his team, Henwon and Lucas, who both stepped down from active play when Kenji was benched. This left the remaining 2 people in the second-best Brazilian team without teammates, as it is not normal to have substitute players signed on the roster. The 4th player on that team, Bolt, was then sold to the best team in Brazil, SK Gaming, who had been looking to replace one of their players for stylistic reasons. This caused a long period of underperformance from them. Meanwhile, the best NA team won a major, the biggest competition in CS, and a massive overperformance throughout the entire tournament. This caused the star player from that NA team to transfer for some reason to SK Gaming, which required that the best Brazilian team switch languages, which caused an even bigger slump that they still have not recovered from. Enter FNS. He was then picked up by the best NA team, who bought out his contract with CLG. Remember that this entire situation was caused by a single tweet from FNS. 400 IQ plays from him. It gets deeper though. The French scene, historically one of the most dominant, was doing alright. They had one team that competed at the highest level and occasionally won big events, with FNS moving to Cloud9 and then subsequently being released from the roster without a contract, allowing him to seek team opportunities wherever he wants. A talent vacuum was created in the NA scene, but all of the other good players were contracted to Team Liquid. This meant that NBK from the French scene, a highly experienced and smart player, left the only good French team and was looking to be bought up by Cloud9. This meant that G2, the best French team, had an opportunity to try out an extremely risky roster change where they brought in an older player, as well as reuniting the 2 best players in France, Shox and Kenny S. This move may or may not pay off, but it is certainly less definite than it would have been if nothing had changed. The upshot of it is that FNS destroyed the Brazilian scene, taking it from a period where they were easily the best team in the world to where it is now, with one semi-competitive team. After this, he managed to join the best NA team and get good experience and a lot of money, before leaving with the ability to do whatever he wanted. He's a free agent. In the meantime, he potentially ruined the strong French scene too, and, for the time being, took the best NA team out of contention until they signed someone to play for them. This means that whatever FNS chooses to do will have a higher chance of winning due to a lower competition level overall. One tweet. This isn't 4D chess, this is 74D intergalactic ping pong played with cricket bats. Story 10. My girlfriend lives in Australia and I live in the US. We don't get to spend much time together because of the distance, obviously. Because of the time difference in our schedules, we get a limited but fairly consistent amount of time we can spend together online, which we normally spend Skyping while playing games. Last summer, she was coming to spend about 5 weeks with me in the US and we were both insanely excited. About a week before, my family was getting together for an early dinner, which wasn't very common as we all live in our own. My father picked me up to take me to the restaurant and I walked in the door and saw her sitting with my mom and sister. I was absolutely speechless and couldn't even make a coherent thought. She had planned it out with my mom months in advance and I had no idea. She sent me pictures and only messaged me at certain times so that I wouldn't catch on while she was taking the 30-hour trip over here. I cannot explain the happiness I felt and the shock I was in. In about 4 months, I'm moving to Australia to live with her and I've never been happier in my entire life. Story 11. In my youth, I posted in a bustling Dragon Ball Z message board. One year on April Fool's, I was messaged by a particularly popular poster that he would like help pranking the board. A particularly tasteless joke. He was going to have his girlfriend post that he was involved in a car accident. To help sell the lie, he wanted me to play devastated and to attack anyone who dared imply such a thing could be a prank, as I would be the only one who knew the truth. But here's the rub. He told everyone, about 80 people, that the accident was fake and that each of us was the only person in on it. And he told each person to react in a particular way, designed to put them in conflict with other people he had told to act in a particular way. I was told to be devastated, someone else was told to call BS, someone else was told to say they were glad he was hurt, someone else was told to say they were donating money for his recovery, etc. He just sat back and watched the board eat itself. It was pretty funny. Story 12. Maybe not totally genius, but close. I had a colleague who worked at a very large company who was on a temporary promotion to quite a senior position. It was a position that he knew a number of other people in the company were interested in applying for, many of whom were far more qualified than him. The day eventually came when the management decided to fill the post permanently and start the process by looking for recruits from within the company. He now faced the very real possibility that the well-paid job he'd been doing for about a year might be taken from him and handed to someone from another department. To get the recruitment process underway, the local management asked him to write the ad for the job, which would then appear in the internal job vacancies listings in the company intranet. My colleague saw his opportunity and seized it with both hands. Firstly, he changed the job title in a way that could be justified but made the vacancy unrecognizable to anyone skimming through the listings who was specifically looking for it. Secondly, he started the ad by focusing on some of the more obscure aspects of the job, making it sound almost like an entirely different kind of role. He only got to the core parts of the job that people might recognize after about 3 paragraphs. It worked brilliantly. No one else applied for the job because it was impossible to identify it from a quick read of the title and opening paragraphs. My colleague was duly appointed to it after a successful interview. I should explain that what made this such a neat trick was that the ad was for a specialist job in a company that had quite a few specialists in that field but was mostly full of generalists. My colleague changed the title to something that sounded very generalist and also wrote the first 3 paragraphs in a generalist way, only switching to the specialist information in paragraph 4. Why I think it worked so well because the generalist who might have been drawn to the job by its title and opening few paragraphs then gave up when they realized it required specialist skills that they lacked. Meanwhile, the specialists only saw the generalist title and immediately moved on to the next ad, not realizing that it could have well been the perfect job for them. It's kind of messed up that they asked him to find his own replacement. Story 13. I know this guy that was stuck in a job for a couple of years. He figured he technically could be fired and had an unlimited amount of paid medical leave, so he did his job well and got a couple of promotions, which raised his salary significantly. Eventually, he became the bro that was chill and on good terms with his superiors and everyone. As soon as his new superior and sub got trained by him, he would turn up for work 2 out of 5 days and then would disappear for weeks at a time, only coming back once or twice a month for funsies. He did this until his term was up, and thinking back on it, he amassed almost a year's worth of medical leave, which was fully paid for by the company's insurance. The dude was literally paid to do nothing. One day we met at a bar and had casual banter over which he explained how he managed to pull it off. I swear to God, it was the most meticulously planned stunt I've ever heard. He basically went full force for the promotions and increased salary, at the same time building rapport with his peers and gaining their trust before going rogue. Even after going rogue, he would pop into work occasionally to ease the workload upon request during audits, and his superiors eventually closed an eye and let him do whatever the heck he wanted because he ultimately had them all by the... The dude and his superiors were so tight even after becoming a massive liability, they'd still go out of their way to cover his behind. He definitely knew what he was doing, as his recommendation letters were nothing but praise even though he didn't do anything. Massive respect for this lad. He certainly knows how to manipulate people to his advantage and has shaken up the very definition of 9 to 5 for me. Story 14. I work as a retail analyst or consultant and have seen all the tricks in the book. My favorites involve 2 large US retailers and iPhones. This was a good few years ago, at peak iPhone hype levels. Store A got a very small allocation from Apple, Store B got a huge allocation, and flaunted the fact that they had a huge amount of stock available compared to Store A. So Store A took advantage of this. They set the price for their limited supply of iPhones at a loss-leading price, a real bargain, but they didn't do this to be kind. They knew Store B had a price match policy, and as they had been very vocal about how much stock they had to honor it. Cost them millions of dollars. If we're going down, we're taking you with us. I like it. Story 15. One of my coworkers at a previous job hated our boss. Guy was a suck-up to higher management, made our lives a living hell by not communicating actual requirements, etc., until it was too late. Then badmouthed design to upper management and the customer. My coworker did some digging and found an old copy of the guy's resume online, polished it up, and contacted a few recruiters. Boss got headhunted out of the company. We got a new boss who wasn't a gigantic jerk, and everyone was happy. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy. Teachers, what student was so smart it's scary? Story 2 is creepy. See you in that video.